They're just comic books, pieces of paper with figures and words held together by little pieces of bent metal, all with the potential to thrust us into fictional worlds that claim to be the world outside our window, voyeurs into the thought and actions of characters that could be living, breathing beings, but only if you put them in the hands of capable talent. They're just comic books. If you're fortunate, you'll find them when you're a kid, overwhelming the senses. They used to be modern mythology, morality stories, right or wrong, good versus evil, heroes that made you strive to reach an unattainable station, escapism from unavoidable and harsh realities. It's your real life heroes. They were just humans with faults in their character and in their choices. Maybe you kept collecting. If so, you saw these stigmatized chronicles grow up with you. Black and white becomes values of gray. You trade your youthful innocence for pleasures of the flesh. Maybe you even had the chance to see these comic books gain validation and integrity, which allowed you to voice that you were a collector or even a casual reader. If so, you probably collected long enough to watch all the validation and integrity fade away because no longer put in the hands of capable talent allowed to simply create. But they're just comic books. What my young mind took away from all of these comics was something that had hatched inside of me. What was I going to do with these days? More importantly, I was not going to be a kid forever. So I filled my days with everything I could. Crayons, spending as much time as I could outside, having these pretend adventures, riding my bike. Contrived and convoluted childhood drama worthy of a badly written comic book. A life not because of my parents, but in spite of them. When I was older, I found comics had not become the center of my life, but a constant that would help center me. Just like any other hobby, one needs to balance their life. Art, hiking, sports, anything. But again, these are just comic books. As time went by, comics became their own reward. This little hobby provided gateways to meet new people, motivated me to go travel, and brought me here to YouTube. As the internet grew and it was possible to meet collectors from around the world, the availability and the quality of comics shrunk. It's just irony. Throughout my 10 years on YouTube, the positives easily outnumbered the negatives. Videos went viral, various waves of popularity for the channel, but I never really tried to maintain any of that. For the people who grew up with comics, I'll share something I learned. There are people here that have only seen the comic book industry in the last 10 years. They've never experienced a healthy, if not fragile, comic book industry. They're incapable of understanding the era that we knew any more than we can fathom what it was like during the Prohibition and the Flapper era. I imagine it's got to be exhausting to continually hear about the golden era of collecting and how their time that is now sucks. And that's what YouTube is like. People seeing my channel now and not knowing about the past eras of my channel. The history lessons, the stories of comic book trivia, the stories of collecting, the flea markets, getting them on the cheap, what it was like when I was a kid. Basically, when it comes to YouTube, you're only as good as your last video. After 43 years of collecting, I'll be able to look back and not take 1 second of countless hours of reading my comics for granted. The thrill of the hunt of finding them, the healthy arguments with other collectors, the joy of seeing someone adding their holy grail to their collection, seeing someone read Watchmen for the first time, reading Dark Knight Returns for the first time, or simply discovering the mind of Jack Kirby. My dream YouTube video would be to film the life of a comic. From creation to printing, to shipping it all around the world, to seeing it read in its journey from reader to reader from 1961 to the present. Because these comics have the potential to outlive us all. Your collection will be left behind. And as much as you believe life is predictable, it's actually as random as the images in this video you're watching. You ever wonder where your comics will end up when you're gone? what'll happen to all the things you love. But then again, just remember, they're just comics.